All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into the Boxing Rush Hour show. My next guest, and before we even get to my next guest, just want to point out that this is the 100th episode of the Boxing Rush Hour show, which started in January 2022. And what better way to celebrate that 100th episode by having boxing promoter, Marine Corps veteran, Michael Reyes. What's going on, Michael?
Loving life. I'm back here with you, my man. So all is great. I don't know why I keep jumping in and out of screen, but
All right. Hey, you're out there, you're an independent promoter, you're cooking, you're doing shows. Um, but for those that aren't familiar with what you've been doing in the Boston, New Hampshire area, New England area, um, you've been in the business, about 5, 6 years now. Um, how is how was your vision? How has your vision changed from when you started to now?
oh, that is a great question. So when I started this whole rigmarole, let's see, I one didn't ever think I'd be doing this, so that's for starters. I had purchased a gym. I had grown up, as we've talked about back in the day, grew up in boxing, um, left it. I had purchased a gym. I convinced myself, hey, look, let's train some fighters. There's a way to help your gym get busier. And a pretty decent, let's call him a world class B side guy comes into my gym, tells me he wants me to manage him. And I was like, no, I'll just train you. And he is like, no, if you train me, then my promoter can take me away from you. So why don't you be my manager? Basically convinced me that I needed to manage him. Worst thing I ever did in my whole life, ever. But that led me to a whole series of really great experiences, signing other guys, realizing that in this industry, besides training, because I do wear that hat for a fair amount of international fighters, but besides training, that promoting is my skill, enjoying that process. And that's what brought me here.
Okay. But from when you started promoting though to now, like
Oh,
how has that vision, evolved, I would say.
that's
From
amazing.
Go ahead.
Um, yeah, yeah. I think that is a good way of looking at it. I think that I set realistic expectations. I don't think I'm going to make a ton of money. I don't believe that I'm going to make, 30 grand on each card. And I don't go in. I go in knowing that, hey, I'm going to lose. Maybe I'm going to break even, but maybe my kids build up a little and the crowd enjoyed it just a little bit more this time. So yeah, I think you're right on point. The saying, setting realistic expectations has allowed me to be here on number 12 today.
All right. And then what challenges did you come across along the way that you might have not expected?
Um, I mean, it's funny. I think every card you come across challenges you don't expect, eh, but you should, right? So I don't know that anything ever has caught me offhand. I've had fighters pull out on the scale or the day of weigh-ins. I've had people call me, my own fighters, call me and say they're not going to make it. I've had police not show up for the detail and had to deal with that. I've had ambulances not show up or show up with the wrong one. I've always had something thrown at me, but all you can do is take a deep breath and find a solution. You hope, and then move on.
All right. Now, a couple weeks ago, you had Down and Dirty 11. It was on September 14th. I believe it was like a Puerto Rican parade weekend over there in your area. Looks like you had Carlos Gonzalez, featherweight, Anthony Velasquez, junior middleweight, that scored victories there. How was it putting on a show and you going up against the big one in Vegas, which was Canelo versus Berlanga, or did it really not have an effect because of it being a local show that people wanted to support those fighters?
I feel like I want to be like Oscar De La Hoya right now. I'm like, Canelo, fuck you, you know? Um, uh, Abe, the truth is that Canelo is a force, right? I mean, it's just factual. It is what it is. He affected the UFC, so that's amazing. It's that is now I understand that you even wanted to go even deeper, more granular.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, my very first show, I made lucky. You could call me lucky. You could call me an idiot. Depends on what side you stand on. My very first self-promoted show, all by myself, happened to be a UFC card that I jumped on and had the option to do up in Maine with the guys from Murphy's Boxing. Um, Great venue, shitty fights. Excuse my language, but they were right. It was my first crack at being a true on my own person, and I saw a whole host of problems. Attendance was horrible, overworked. And so that started off my vision. And I say lucky because not very many people have the ability to have TV in their back pocket. And I did right off the bat. And it stuck with me. I think that the learning experience has helped me really craft what I want. As we've spoken in the past about, I have this vision for my series Down and Dirty, which we're on Down and Dirty 12 coming up here in 3 weeks. Extremely excited about it. The vision has just grown from venue size to title fights to just this amazing dream that I never really thought of, because you get down these lines and little boyish mentality. Oh, I want to be the next Bob Arum. I want to be Don King. No, man. You don't have $20 million to lose, right? You don't have all of this stuff that it takes to get there. And you're not playing with other people's money. You're playing with your real money, your money. So, for where I started to where I am today, the growth, the vision, it's always stayed true. Put on great fights, give people entertaining opportunities, give fighters the chance to show their skill and build. And yeah, I mean, that's what we've been doing. So I'm happy.
All right. And so, in hearing all that, would you say that having realistic expectations has helped you get to this point with the company?
Yeah, yeah. I think that is a good way of looking at it. I think that I set realistic expectations. I don't think I'm going to make a ton of money. I don't believe that I'm going to make 30 grand on each card. And I don't go in. I go in knowing that, hey, I'm going to lose. Maybe I'm going to break even, but maybe my kids build up a little and the crowd enjoyed it just a little bit more this time. So yeah, I think you're right on point. The saying, setting realistic expectations has allowed me to be here on number 12 today.
All right. And then what challenges did you come across along the way that you might have not expected?
I mean, it's funny. I think every card you come across challenges you don't expect, eh, but you should, right? So I don't know that anything ever has caught me offhand. I've had fighters pull out on the scale or the day of weigh-ins. I've had people call me, my own fighters, call me and say they're not going to make it. I've had police not show up for the detail and had to deal with that. I've had ambulances not show up or show up with the wrong one. I've always had something thrown at me, but all you can do is take a deep breath and find a solution, you hope, and then move on.
All right. Now, a couple weeks ago, you had Down and Dirty 11. It was on September 14th. I believe it was like a Puerto Rican parade weekend over there in your area. Looks like you had Carlos Gonzalez featherweight, Anthony Velasquez junior middleweight, that scored victories there. How was it putting on a show and you going up against the big one in Vegas, which was Canelo versus Berlanga, or did it really not have an effect because of it being a local show that people wanted to support those fighters?
I feel like I want to be like Oscar De La Hoya right now. I'm like, Canelo, fuck you, you know? Um, uh, the truth is that Canelo is a force, right? I mean, it's just factual. It is what it is. He affected the UFC, so if he's affecting a sport that doesn't technically have anything to do with him, yeah, I'm sure I felt the hurt of Canelo a little bit. Was that 100 people who said they didn't want to show up to my fight because they were going to stay home and watch a Canelo fight? I don't know. It wasn't a direct. We still sold 2,200 tickets that night for our venue. Which is the most that venue has ever sold in the history, in literally the history of the sport. And they've had all kinds of people there from this area throwing fights. I'm not going to drop names, but guys that people say are the big promoters. And they couldn't put that many people in there. So we did great. Could we have done better? Maybe. Will we do better on December 14th? Yeah. Is it possible Canelo is going to come out and say he's going to fight on December 14th? Possibly. It seems like every time I put a date out there, motherfucker decides he's fighting on it. So, but yeah, no, he's the draw.
Yeah.
It'd be like going up against Tank Davis. It's what you do.
Yeah, and speaking of that type of influence, Turkey Al Sheikh, he is in boxing, both feet in, and he is affecting a lot right now. Now there's some backlash and there's some, people undecided on what to think. The one thing is that they are putting, top name fighters on their cards and keeping them busy, but it doesn't leave too much room for guys that are kind of in the middle area. Now, I've seen as of late that there are fighters that are in that zone that are a name, but maybe not a big name, that are now kind of going into these regions where they're doing small shows. They're fighting on small shows. So I guess my question is, do you see that from a local promoter's lens, that there are fighters that maybe are on a bigger promotion that are now being kind of farmed out to smaller shows to stay busy? And is that
Yeah.
is that something that you would potentially entertain as a local promoter, to have somebody that has some sort of name that people recognize be on one of your shows?
So we'll break that down in a couple different ways. One, let's Turkey Al Sheikh. Yeah, Saudi is definitely affecting the way the sport is running right now, and it's amazing. Jake Paul did the same thing, right? There's always a new person who's going to affect the way that this sport is quote unquote ran. PBC did the same thing. You know, De La Hoya and Golden Boy did the same thing. They all do the same thing. They come out, they're gonna put more money in these fighters' pockets. They're gonna put on the best shows. They're gonna do this. They're gonna do that. Okay, you're gonna do the best that you can do, and that's just what you're gonna do. You know, so Saudi has deep pockets. How long does it last? I don't know. As long as Showtime lasted, as long as HBO lasted, because eventually somebody's gonna be like, no, we're not gonna just keep throwing money away, right? Like, because it doesn't make sense. Like it still has to make sense. Businesses still have to make sense. You know, so to answer that question, the top of the top is doing better than they ever have, right? And that's great. And that is allowing for the mid-level guys that were being chewed up by these larger promotions to now come back down to probably where they would have always have been anyways. A good club level fighter who was ready to step up and be an opponent or something like that. But you know, if we're truly looking at it, there's still some TV that's out there. There's the Amazon Prime deal. They're doing their first free fight through Amazon with Tim Tszyu and a bunch of guys in that Orlando area that they're producing in part with Amari and the Karib and those guys. We'll see how it goes. You know, I've sat and watched these DAZN shows look like average, you know, or they present this 4-0 versus this 4-0, but it's a fake 4-0, so they're still killing the guy, and it's all fucking smoke and mirrors. Meanwhile, on the club level shows, we have guys who are 4-16, but the fights are going 4 rounds, and the guy's only winning by a split decision, and they're exciting, and you know what I mean? So I think that we'll see some guys come back to the club level circuit, move around, depending on where they're at, how big their name really is, you know? The problem is that guys like me, Abe, we need to put asses in seats, and the idea of those guys don't put asses in seats. They don't. No one gives a. No one gave a fuck when they were on Showtime. You know what I mean? Like they were opening up when there was nobody in the crowd, so no one gives a fuck now.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting take. Yeah, because I mean I've seen him. I've seen who was it that I saw? I saw this one guy that was PBC guy, fought on Fox Sports 1 a bunch of times. He was doing a club show in Michigan, and then this guy from former world champion from Jersey, I can't remember. He runs a chicken place. He's fighting on Pro Box. So like I'm seeing more of that because it doesn't look like there are enough shows for those level guys. And like what you said, you know, they may or may not have a name, and you know, you're not in the business of taking that risk. You rather, you know, provide entertainment value because there's nothing like home cooking, right? Everybody loves some home cooking.
That's it, man. You know, like I'm you know, the guys that are jumping on those names, the Gary Jonases, the Amaris, the, you know, the DeBellas, you know, like great for you. Great for you that you're going to jump on that name, but those people aren't packing in. What they're really hoping is that that guy's going to get the chance to fight on a Saudi card, and because they put him on the card, they signed him some contract, and now they're hoping they're going to get $200, $300, $400, $500,000.
Yeah. Yep.
Are they? I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? They might not. You know, they're taking the risk of spending 30 or 40 grand up front to do that, you know, because it might happen, it might not happen. And in my experience right now, the money isn't what everyone thinks it is. And it doesn't matter. I don't care who's the one signing the check behind that. I don't care if it's Saudi. I don't care if it's Eddie Hearn. I don't care if it's Oscar De La Hoya. They call the same way the rest of us do. What's the cheapest I can get a fight for? Because in the end of the day, everyone's money's made the same way. How much sponsorship did you get? What hotel, what casino gave you, you know, X amount of dollars how much did you sell at the fucking gate, and how much did you spend, and did you make any money?
Yep.
Only
And
one person doesn't look at those numbers that way. Everybody else does.
and listen, before I go to my next question, I got a surprise guest joining us, somebody that you know very well. Let's see where he is. He is coming on shortly.
Can we
Sweet.
see me?
You gotta turn on your camera though.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, Mike motherfucking Woods is in the house.
What, can you see me?
No, you gotta turn
Now
on
I
your
can't
camera.
see you, but I can
Oh,
hear you.
Jesus.
He sounds like, doesn't he sound like who's that guy?
Okay, why is my video?
Oh God.
No, I'm not done speaking. Oh, God.
Oh,
Turn
man.
on. It's going to happen.
Yeah, and we were just about to get into the nice down and dirty 12 part too. So you came just in time there, Mike.
Yeah, wait a
Oh man,
second.
I wish he would have been here a few minutes ago. We could have trash talked about 35 promoters.
Well, we can still do that. Hold on. What's my settings, Abe? Why am I that stupid?
Oh,
Settings.
on the bottom.
Okay, no. I got it. Oh, my
There
God.
you go.
Yo,
Holy shnikes!
you guys would think they just invented the Zoom like yesterday, right? There you go.
I'm
And I'm
pretty
going to give
sure-
myself some light from the refrigerator.
Oh, nice! Look at him. He's adding life to the situation. You're like,
Guys, I'm sorry I'm late. I was walking the dog.
Yeah.
is that what we call it now? Is that what we call
Yeah.
Hey,
Whatever it was, that's what we call it. No, I apologize for being late.
Woods,
Tardy, as they say in your neck of the woods, Reyes, tardy.
Tidy.
it? Patty. But
Hey,
he says that as if he's not a Massachusetts boy.
yeah, I know.
Well, I know. I am. Well, I guess I am half and half or 3/4 or whatever. But wait, what did I miss? Who did we trash?
So we were
No.
so we were talking about whether Mike Reyes was going to be holding Turkey Al Sheikh's hand or not the next time he sees him. Nah, I'm kidding.
Yeah. No,
Hold his
he's
hand
telling
or
the
his-
truth. That's exactly what he was saying. He was like, do you want to be the next guy who throws himself at Turkey Al Sheikh like the guys throw themselves at P. Diddy?
Sure.
And I said no, I could give two shits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because my break in the end of the day, Mike, for me, it's how many people do I put in my shows here on my level? How many sponsors do I find care about my stuff, and all they're going to care about is how many eyes are watching my fights.
Right.
And it's not some mid-level guy, Jesse Hart or any of those guys. They're not putting asses in seats in Massachusetts. So
No. And for the answer is, I'm not going to that Diddy party right now.
yeah, I'm good. I don't want to wake up in 10 years and be like, oh, Turkey Al Sheikh got you too, huh?
Thing is this. If they contacted me right now, if they contacted you right now and said, hey, we got a little, something and we see you working in it, would we work with it? Yeah, we would, right? I don't have any problems working against, because of ideology or any of that stuff. I will say this. If you had asked me that 5 years ago, 6 years ago or whatever, the world has changed a lot since then. And what I'm referring to is Saudi Arabia and America and how we get along and how we don't. And you remember the journalist that was killed, whatever, 2018 or something, 2017 was, I think it was. And that was a big hubbub, and how much the world has changed since then, and how I see the world is a lot different now. I don't think that let's put it this way, boxing is not populated by angels 99% of the lot, right? That's just like the world. I don't see angels anywhere. I don't see angels in our government, in their government, in any government right now. So me in 2018 versus me now, that wouldn't be so much. Am I bullshitting myself and being like, no, Woods, take the bag? I seriously don't think I am. We could get, you all could get, and we could get, and you guys could get much deeper than me because of your backgrounds and what you know in military and all that. So I know we took it into a slightly different direction there, but I wouldn't have any problems about, I don't think, taking a bag. But okay, here, I'll say this. How do I say this without, well, can I say this? If those folks had wanted any help in terms of like journalism and all that stuff, if they were had been reaching out to people, I'll say it this way, they're the kind of people that are very quiet and stealthy about what they're doing and who they're hiring and all that stuff. So let's just say I have considered it, and I didn't say no to it. It did strike me though when they were starting out just last year, and I haven't seen the infrastructure being built outside of Saudi Arabia. They're doing the business in America now, and right, they did the show in Cali.
Right. Yep.
And Wembley, hello, but they're also very insular too. So in other words, it's boxing. It's we are in flux again. I can only imagine you, Mike, as far as being a promoter and seeing this happen and being like, oh shit, are they gonna swallow up like everything? And do I have a frickin' place? And so I guess that's my point here, coming to on this sort of turf, like, what's all our place in this if they get so big that they almost take over everything?
I mean, but the thing is, the truth is that, I mean, I know where you're going with this, Mike, and I don't know that you're wrong, except that I don't think that any one entity can do what they think they can do. I've steadily watched, and Dana White can put out whatever bullshit ass numbers he wants to put out, because the truth is the shows have gotten shitty over the years, right? The UFC fights of today are not the cards that we watched with Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture, and each fight had this like exciting era of like, oh my god, right? Like, and so now you watch these fights,
but isn't
and
that
like,
the same
you
in
don't
ours,
even watch
Mike?
the first 4 of them.
Isn't that the same in our sport though too?
And that's multiple but that's multiple different entities who've done that. They've broken it up. One person can't pull it all together, because you know what, in the end of the day, you still have greed, and you still have corruption, and you still have, and I don't give a fuck. The Saudis they have deep pockets, sure, but there's not an unlimited amount of money. No. And just like everyone has found a way to fuck up the HBO contract, and to fuck up the Showtime contract, and to fuck up the Fox contract, and soon to fuck up the DAZN contracts, they'll fuck up the Saudi contract because they're going to be so fucking disgusting and take so much, that like, the people are going to be like, we don't want to do this.
This reminds me of a Dana White riff that dropped probably just yesterday, right, Abe? Abe and I have talked about this. White been saying for how long that he was going to maybe get into boxing, for years and years and years, and finally it became a joke. Abe messaged me the other day with an LOL, like, oh, come on, let's grain of salt, basically. We'll see if it happens. And to see, like I don't know if he's going to do it either, really, because he's like so approaching and then avoiding, right?
He's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. I mean,
but hold on. Yes, I don't know when. I think this was his. I think this was his chat with Ioli that dropped yesterday. He is really. I feel like he does not exactly know how he's going to do it at the level he wants to do it, because he does not want to pay at the same rates or even approaching anywhere the same rates. So he's basically put himself into a corner at the levels of fights and fighters that he can have. He can simply not pay. The beef was Nagano. He was talking about Nagano. And it was this was maybe a question after one of the pressers or what, but someone is like, yo, the money that guys can get, Nagano made that big money against AJ. And White is just like, well, that's not true. If you guys really know, people throw around bullshit numbers. And then he proceeds to not inform us. Not tell us. If you guys, if you guys only knew, well, then fucking tell us, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, let's look at his actual thing.
That's hard bullshittery.
Let's look at his actual thing. Let's look at the way this. We all know that there's an issue. A contract ends with ESPN in Top Rank in 2025. That's public knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything that doesn't exist, right? So we all know that. We all know that the UFC has dominated ESPN as of late.
Right.
Their shows take precedence. If they have a show that's on, and there's a Top Rank card on, Top Rank waits for ESPN, UFC to finish, right?
Yep.
So we all know that. So, by that standard, I would think the argument is that UFC is going to get ESPN.
Yes. You don't think there's room enough for two of those? You don't. It's the Titanic, and
right.
We are in the boxing is in the lower berth, and fuck it, we're dead. I think so.
I don't know about that. I just think that Dana White's going to do exactly what you just said. He's going to go in and he's going to do the fight cheaper, because he's been doing it with Tom Loeffler on UFC format. So Loeffler's fights will come in and he'll do and let's talk about the Boston show he did.
Yeah.
Average show. But he did it inside of the BU stadium. So smaller, not as large as, a Top Rank would do their show. Right. So he does it in that type of setting. It's an average show. They highlight one or two guys, and then everything else is just very similar to an MVP card, right? Oh, I have this 4-0 versus this 3-1, and you're like, yeah, but the 3-1's from fucking Oklahoma City and has never fought a fucking soul, and the 4-0's 5-time national champion. You're not doing anything special. You want to fake out people, sure, but here's the truth, right? And so Loeffler's done a decent job of putting on a card for $60,000 to $70,000, where Top Rank cards cost $300,000 to $400,000 on a cheap, right? So yeah, sure. ESPN probably looks at it and says, "Hey, we don't need, right? But they need the Teofimo Lopez, sure. They need, I don't know.
They don't need Shakur.
Lomachenko to an extent.
Maybe Shakur. You could say Shakur. I mean, he's selling those things, but they don't care about the Johnny Becks, right? They certainly don't care about, Francis Ngannou, F.A. Ajakba, right? Like those aren't the shows that are making ESPN money. So could that show be traded out for a Tom Loeffler-esque event and still make the same amount of money? 100%. You know what I mean? On the big level,
ESPN also, a show on ESPN can it make shit into something palatable? More so, we saying? That's what I'm saying. Can we divert a little bit? We're trying to talk some real talk here. We got a Massachusetts guy, got a half a Massachusetts guy, we got a Bronx guy here. I am not always enthralled. I'm going to say I'm usually not enthralled with the top ranked shows too. And here's why.
I mean, the other night, that card was kind of his fucking snoozer.
Formulaic is the term, and it's kind of paint by numbers, and I'm not shitting on it. I understand why they do it. They're building up the next crop of people. But the shows of the past couple of years have been very much, you know what you're getting. You're getting you started out your 4-0 guys, and now they're 9-0, and now they're 11, and it's the Jahis, and it's the the whole crew from 2 years ago. A few of which are standing up and showing themselves to be, and they want to do better. They want to be better. But I don't know, man. How much is it resonating? How much is it hitting? Mike, I think it comes down to what you referenced about, man, you want even matches. You just want even matches. And when they're not, it fucking suffers. And over the past couple of years, that formula a little tired, a little stale. Abe, God bless Abe, man. He's just laying out and he's just letting these numbskulls yap. Bless you. Didn't I say to you, what was it there, the last one, like, what would stop Top Rank from doing, how about this one, their big year-end show, big fucking blowout show? We're not having the same format, right? A couple of our in-house guys are going to fight each other, et cetera, and stack it, motherfucker. Stop, everyone, stop saying stack. Stop it. It's not ever stacked. It's not ever stacked.
You know it's
Reyes, you're stacked, but everyone else not stacked.
You know what stops that. What stops that is a whole series of managers and promoters who have stakes in these games, and kids who have. You're talking. Look, let's look at a Shushu Carrington, a talented fighter for sure, and who did get clipped the other day and pulled it back together. But how much money's tied into Shushu right now for them to throw that away against what?
Yeah, no.
Against who?
No.
You throw them in against, at this point right now, you throw Shushu in against, you know what I mean? Like, you lost, they lost that fight. The fight would have been, Shushu versus the little killer who got knocked out by.
Oh,
no, not anyway. That's not yet. Anyways, a beast in his own right? Like there's not much to argue about that, but the kid who just got beat,
Robeisy Ramirez.
Robeisy could be a good one now, but he's just pulling it back together after his loss.
Yeah.
Knocked out by the Pro Box kid there.
Oh, you talking about Angelo Leo?
Angelo Leo's fight, right? No one cares now. Nobody wants to see Angelo Leo fight. No, right? Like, it doesn't matter. But
I miss PBC. I miss PBC a little bit more than I
PBC
right?
PBC did a good job. They threw.
I mean, yeah.
You got the fights. They put guys against each other, but they went out of business doing it.
They did.
You know what I mean? Like, because the money, you know what? If people want good fights, if the people want boxing, then it's going to take them to speak up, because saying I want good fights and then paying for Berlanga and Canelo doesn't say I want good fights.
No.
It says I'm going to do whatever the fuck you tell me to do because I'm sheep.
You're exactly right. And Aram, going to come back to the OG with his wisdom. Aram always said, he will say this periodically. When media is saying to him, well, what about this? Why aren't we getting this? Why aren't we getting that? And Bob will get like a little exasperated and be like, the people, I'm not going to do the Aram voice. The people got to ask for it. The customers have to ask for it. Going back to Abe and me again. We chat, we talk, we get on the same wavelength because that's my guy, and he loves me and I love him, like you, Reyes, but I've known Abe a little longer, right? Okay, and I think that that was kind of part of our point. We kind of ganged up a little bit and on social we've been making a point to speak up for the customers, speak up for, I'm going to say, speak up for myself, speak up for ourselves about the pay-per-view model, right? And just how, hello, I'm doing a call. What are you doing?
That's awesome.
I love you. I'll see you later.
Your
I'm
daughter?
actually doing a call. She probably thinks I'm like, whatever. That's my daughter. She's 17 and she's outside, and I'm in an apartment building, and it's the first floor. And that's some. I gotta get a studio. So as I was saying, what was I saying?
You were talking about the
we're talking
pay-per-view
about
model.
Pay-per-view model.
Yeah, and we were hammering it a little bit. I've been hammering it for a fucking long time now. Hello, yo, read the room, guys. And what's the room? The room is people's levels of discretionary income in the past couple years with inflation has been fucking shitty. And you are in this time, you guys are popping up your now average pay-per-view prices to 90 a pop. Read the fucking room.
Yeah, but the problem is that the room still fucking pays it like everything else. You want here's your food for thought, Abe.
Yeah, baby.
You guys are speaking it. If you want it, the truth, those motherfuckers should go out and support small shows then. Get more people. There is more power. There are more fights on a regular basis in people's hometowns than there are on that large level.
Yeah.
It's right inside there. Sorry, we just gotta go pick up kids. Inside on the table. If they just support these kids when they're starting out and see it at that level, then yeah, you'll get those fights because you force that.
So Mikey, let's break it down. What you're talking about is you brought it up before a couple minutes ago. Investments. They see when you see it as investments, that fucks with you. And Top Rank will say this more than anyone else, right? They're like, no, what do you want us to do? We've invested, they're not going to tell you the number, but it's hundreds of thousands of dollars in people. So that makes it fucking hard. That makes it hard. Yeah. I don't know how to make it better, but I don't know. Bottom line, I think are going to see now a true test. If Turkey Al-Sheikh sticks with it, keeps booking fights that people want to see, and keeps making it more more accessible, lower price point, then we're actually going to see, do we fucking grow eyeballs, or are we sort of stagnant? Are we at a ceiling? I don't know. We might be at a ceiling. This might be sort of the amount of people that are going to be following our sport or not. I'm not that optimistic. Here's one reason why. You need an American star. I don't want to say you need a white star, but that helps a lot with marketing. You know what kind of guy you need. You need an ass kicker. So once again, it comes down to talent. Now, my guy Abe, bless him, and you too. You guys are both international. Abe, over the past several years, has latched on to the Japanese more. That's filling a niche for him. That doesn't fill a niche for the people in America so much. Abe is hardcore. How many other people are doing that? And then what do I have in common with Inoue? Yeah, I love to watch his fight and stuff, but you need that identification. And that's why boxing also has that ceiling. Oh, we're an international sport. Dude, for some reason, sorry, not sorry, but I just don't have too much of an interest in Janabak or five of these other guys.
No one does. That's why quite possibly one of the best. Well, but that's why quite possibly one of the best middleweights in history will go down as a bore, as a snooze, right? Triple G had great skills. He was a great fighter. Yeah. And he never got the fights that defined his true ability. You know,
because of why?
so
because of being from Kazakhstan to
because of money. Because
of money.
they couldn't generate enough gate money to convince the Demetrius Andrades or the Charlos at that time to take the fight against a guy who was a killer, right? And everybody would say, well, he wouldn't fight me, but we all know that was, you know what I mean? We know that was true.
Yeah.
So that there is people having to make too much money. That's the thing. That's the problem. When you're invested like that, you have to make a big return. And so you're making decisions based on what's my return going to be instead of what's the fucking quality. Hello, does this remind you of anything? Like half our society so much is the problem is Wall Street, bro. When you 100%. Just have a regular company, Reyes' company, it's right. It's too big. It's all too big, and it's all focused too much on greed and whatever. Is that going to frickin' change? Rhetorical question. Right. I don't think it will.
No. But that's it. That's why you asked me. This all started with, do I think Turki Al-Sheikh changes the sport? And the answer is no, because he doesn't have the money to do that, because there is always going to be greed. There is always going to be the person who thinks they deserve. We should have had a Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua fight. We should have had all of these fights that never happened, and there was way more money out there that was able to make these happen, and they don't happen, right? And then you start with the infighting with each other, and it happens at every level. It happens at my level where, you know, promoters are dickish with each other and don't want to, you know, they sign a guy, and these guys are all average fighters, but they sign him, so they want to build him up because they're going to put him in a fight on top rank and make their money. So they're not going to put him against your guy who might be a little bit better, might not. It all gets better when people start supporting the right. Like, I'm not going to go to your show if I'm watching your kid fight this shitty guy who we know he's going to knock out in 2 rounds, right? I'm not going to watch Canelo meander through and carry Berlanga. Like, I'm not going to see Tank Davis fight another 120-pound guy. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I mean, the fights, like, to the one guy's credit, I think he's crazy and it's nuts, but to the one guy's credit, the guy who probably made the most money in the last couple of years, Ryan Garcia, who laid it out and fought. He's like, I don't care. Sure, I'll fight Tank Davis. Sure, I'll fight, you know, Haney.
And is that, but I don't know. And then is that what it takes? Is that what it takes? And the answer, again, a rhetorical question. Yes, that is what it takes to break through to people.
It does. Jeez. It does. And it takes the stars to be like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not, you know what I mean?
And those were the 2 of the biggest fights that we've had in the last couple of years in boxing.
Tank and Ryan and Ryan and Haney.
But you know what?
Yeah.
Both guys thought they had here's the thing. Here's the crazy part about that is Ryan came in on the B side in both of those fights.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Ryan said, I don't care. I'm going to fight. But both other guys thought they had the win over him. They thought they had it. And obviously we saw Tank stop him and Haney get the shit kicked out of him, even though he's trying to say he didn't. But yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what it takes. That's what the fights were when we were kids, and we watched Marvin Hagler fight John the Beast Mugabe, and you watch Joey Gamache fight whoever they put in front of him. That's what it was.
And it will never be again for a myriad different reasons. So if you're a Gen X guy like me, right? Abe's too, all of us, it ain't never coming back to where it was. We must be, if we want to continue to be fans, etc., must be okay with how it will never be that way again. But can it be a better version than it has? Mike, let me ask you, it's hard. So what is your let's say your 3-year plan, Mike? what do you do if you don't want to be? You don't want to be like, all right, I got a guy, I want to build him to 12-0. I got Callum Walsh or whatever. But part of you does want to do that, right? So what do you fucking do?
You suck it up and you put your kids out there to fight, and realize that you have no option, and they've got to do better. So if you've got a kid who sells, and I'll tell you right now, as a small time promoter, if I have a kid who sells 20,000, 30,000 in tickets, yeah, probably not going to throw him out there like that.
Yes,
if
sir.
he's selling out a third,
that's right,
or a half of my crowd. Yeah. But if I've got kids who are selling 5,000 or 6,000 in tickets, I'm watching, and they can barely cover their fight, well, fuck yeah, you're gonna fight, man, or you're not gonna fight on my card.
Yeah. Now, I'm gonna say this, Mike, and that's a perfect segue. Speaking of Reyes and his card, entertainment value, getting the grassroots shows going. Down and Dirty 12 is happening on October 19th at the Doubletree, Manchester, New Hampshire. You got one of the fights on there is Gabriel Morales versus Blas Esquile Caro, which is a rematch. Talk to us about that card and what to look forward to on October 19th down in Dirty 12.
Yeah, so all my cards are a mix. I'm not going to sit here and perpetrate as though I don't have guys who are going to fight some other guys who they expect to win, and so on and so forth. I have 2 fights on this card that I think are very intriguing. In that Blascaro Gabby fight, Gabby lost by stoppage to Blascaro, and he wants his shot back, and Blascaro's training hard and ready to go. So, it's a great fight. That is at the main event for a reason. I also have Joe James, a fight that I look forward to seeing. Joe James, who's 9-1, who's coming off a win, but his fight before that, he got stopped by a person I consider an average fighter. And he's fighting a kid named David Smith, who's 2-0. And Joe knows, like, this is it. Like, you gotta go out there and you gotta win. And David Smith is no slouch, and he's he quite possibly is a hidden gem, and we get to see this fight. And, then there's some other guys on there who are going to fight nobodies. And maybe it's because they need to get somewhere. But that's what a card should be, a nice mix of a whole bunch of stuff for people to get and then move on. And that's what my cards have been. If you look at that last card, the Down and Dirty 11, we had some really great fights, go the distance, some awesome fights that were close. You weren't taking it and being like, oh, well, this is it, they're only going to win. Then we had some guys who went out there and knocked their opponent out in 2 seconds. Because that's what the sport is, But to Mike's point and to yours is that if the people dictate what they're going to see, right? If no one shows up to my shows, I don't make any money, my fighters don't build up, then they've spoken, and that's okay, right? Then I know I didn't do my job. But it's got to be done that way at every level, right? So stop watching the bullshit fights. Stop watching that stuff. I'll be fine.
As far as more local or grassroots places, if you got to give people reality, and what you described in the Morales situation, there's a reason for that fight. There's a history for that fight. When you described it, like, I got little goosebumps. I'm like, I right? And so if you're doing that, God bless you. Too much of the time, that's just not happening. There's too much paint by numbers. There's too much filling in the blanks. And one of the problems is those big guys, they do that paint by numbers shit, and then it trickles down and on you. You're not doing that. It just, I feel like it comes down to the economy, man, and where we are. Man, you have to have numbers. You have to have big numbers as an influencer, as a whatever, to make anything tenable, right? Because of the cost of fucking, this ain't 1944, this ain't 1987 even. The costs are crazy. The costs are mad, and how the costs add up to a promoter. Holy shit. Mike, can you give us an example? Give the people an example of something that they don't think of, like nitty gritty, shitty fucking costs that fuck with you, that are like leave your wife sometimes saying, Michael Reyes, why are we fucking doing this? Because there are 10,000 of them in every show. And for you to be doing this tells me that you absolutely love this. So God bless you. I want you to succeed, but it's against all odds.
It is against all odds. You know, these people, I got to get out of here because I got to get the kids, but I'll tell you guys something real quick. And this is the God's honest truth. I've heard I just had a conversation with a manager wanting me to sign his two fighters. Two fighters are decent fighters. They're good. But the kid's father goes, well, he's only paying us $1,500 for a 6-round fight. And the guy goes, well, he's only going to pay you that because you're going to fight guys that you should win, right?
Yeah.
That you shouldn't be losing to. And the guy goes, well, he's making the gate and he's making any pay-per-views. He's making this. And so I had to help the guy out and make him realize that, yeah, I might be making all those if they show up.
Yep.
If people come. If somebody buys a pay-per-view or a stream. If you even show up for a fight. But you know what? You're going to get paid automatically because you're going to step on that scale and step in the ring. And it doesn't really matter what happens because my responsibility is to pay you regardless.
Right.
So those are the true facts of it, is that a small club level show costs 40 to 50 grand. And these kids and these people can't even fathom putting that money up because they can't even do any of it. But that's what those guys do on a regular basis. And then up to